What are you doing?
I'm reversing the polarity of the ultrasonic screwdriver's power source.
Reverse the polarity.
Reverse the polarity.
I just reversed the polarity.
Welcome to The Fan and the Fool. I'm Matt Antonelli.
And I'm Alex Cameron.
I am the fan.
And I am the fool, apparently.
Perfect. So, this is a podcast about me being really into Doctor Who and
me not knowing anything about it and being quite skeptical of whether or not I will like it.
Perfect. And by the end of 26 classic seasons of Doctor Who.
Doctor Who? Yeah.
What? You will love it.
We'll
and then
see.
a telling movie, and then 13 new seasons, and 13 main Doctors.
Why don't we start with one episode at a time?
One story arc at a time.
One story arc at a time. Fine.
So basically the way this is going to work is we're going to watch a lot of classic episodes, and because I know a lot about Doctor Who, I'm coming at it from that. Like, I know where this character is going to end up. I know where all these storylines are going to go. Whereas Alex has no idea what's going to happen.
Nothing.
And
I don't know what a Doctor Who is, so...
Oh my god. Every time you say something, that it just hurts my, fan soul a little bit.
Professor what now?
Exactly.
Okay.
That will come up, Professor. Anyway, that's just a little thing there for the fans of the 7th Doctor.
And for people like me, I don't understand either, so...
Perfect.
I've got some camaraderie there.
I'm also just gonna do a disclaimer, because I know there's many super fans. So if I say something and you're like, he's not a real fan because he doesn't know that that actor who played a caveman is played by blah blah, that's fine.
Spoilers, jeez.
And also, I've seen a lot of classic episodes, but I hadn't actually seen this one yet. So maybe I am not a true fan.
You hadn't seen the first episode ever of your favourite show?
Yeah, I've seen the second arc, the Daleks.
Is that the first episode? That's not what I said.
Oh.
Anyway, that's fine.
So...
Also, I don't know what that is, so...
The Daleks.
The what?
You know what Daleks are.
I've seen what they're supposed to be. I don't know what they do.
What they're supposed to be is what they look like, so...
Well, then I know everything. I'm the super fan.
No. Okay, no, I am the super fan.
Okay.
So, we'll start...
Yes.
With an unearthly child.
First story arc.
The first story arc. The first 4 episodes of Doctor Who. So, this has a lot of firsts. And before we get into plot and stuff, as a fan, you can already see, maybe it's because I also listen to a lot of audio plays for Doctor Who, but this just feels already like Doctor Who when it starts. And you're like, oh my gosh. Except it's in black and white. And...
Not on the radio.
Not on the radio. So we start in Coal Hill School with Barbara Wright and Ian Chesterton talking about this student of theirs who knows lots of things but also doesn't know lots of things, Susan Foreman. So when we opened, what did you think? The title sequence? The music?
I honestly thought it was pretty good for its time. It wasn't horrible. I don't know what I expected, but I thought it was pretty good.
Okay, excellent.
Creepy music. It was obviously in black and white, but I don't know what I expected. I didn't expect it to be bad, but I didn't expect it to be as competent as it was. And I know that sounds like an insult, but I've heard you talk a lot about how you really see the difference when you watch the new stuff. So I don't know what I expected, but I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, obviously when you watch the newer seasons, you'll see a lot of special effects. We'll get to the 70s and 80s where they try a lot of things with special effects.
Oh, so the bad stuff's coming up. Excellent.
But, get the really cool, the intro music and the title sequence. And now the title sequence, I'm just going to say something to you.
Yes.
It is a special effect. So that, weird wavy thing...
Yes.
Okay, that's actually a visual effect where you get a camera and you point it at a monitor of its own recording. And so
That's
you get
all
like
it
a
is.
weird effect.
Wow,
yes.
that's pretty cool.
So that was pretty out there for its time.
Mm-hmm.
The guy that created that, though, apparently isn't the one who really created it. So that's something we can talk about at the end, because I've got trivia at the end.
Fun
of the
trivia.
episode.
From 1963?
1963. Yeah.
Excellent.
And I found my first thing. I know when we were talking about doing this podcast, there were things that I wanted to talk about that don't hold up in like modern day society.
Yep.
And the first thing I saw was two teachers thinking about giving a student a lift home, and I was like, that is not.
Well, it's not COVID appropriate to start
COVID
with,
appropriate.
but even so, yes. I didn't think about that. You mentioned that, and that makes sense, but I didn't even notice it at the time.
No, I was like, part of me was just like, no, I would not do that.
Well, you are a teacher.
Yes, yes, I am.
Am
a
I
school
allowed to
teacher.
say that on this podcast?
Oh yeah,
Well, that's why you picked it up.
yeah. My views don't represent my workplace. So
All that of teachers.
that all teachers love Doctor Who, or at least all the ones that I've met.
I know one who probably doesn't, but let's move on.
So they follow her to her home.
And I think that's worse than offering
That
to
is
drop
worse.
it home.
And I do think there's a moment there where, like, Barbara Wright,
The female teacher.
the female teacher, the history teacher, she's like, oh, this is actually silly, we should probably go home. And I'm like, yes. You followed a young, student to, like, a garbage dump, basically.
Yeah.
And so...
Decommissioned junkyard or something.
Yeah, so what are you just going to follow her into there? Then what's going to happen? So anyway, they go in there, and they have a look around, and there's some classic, just someone falls over and drops their torch, which I thought was a bit like, okay. And so at the 11, I time checked it, at 11 minutes and 50 seconds, we see the first Doctor. So William Hartnell, who is the first Doctor.
Doctor Who.
Yep, I do actually have that. There was later on. Oh my gosh, we're going to get to it.
Okay.
But so he rocks up.
Yes. Can I ask you, is there a reason you mentioned the time? Is it significant, or you're just...
I was just excited.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if it
Were
was...
you not excited? The title character has turned up.
How do I know he's the title character? I don't know what a Doctor Who is. He's just some old guy in a junkyard.
Okay, he turns up,
Sure.
and they're immediately like, "What do you like? Where is Susan?" So, and he's
child.
like, "Oh, there's no. What are you talking about?" So, the name of the junkyard is Foreman's. Like it says, it has the name Foreman's on it, and it's 76 Todders Lane, and so her name is Susan Foreman, the student, and then the Doctor walks in and is basically just like, whatever, go get the police. I don't really care what you do. And
Because they're trying to threaten him about wanting to find out where Susan is, and he says, well, go get the police, I don't care.
And they're like, no, you're coming with us. And he's like, no, I'm not going anywhere. And it's not like they're going to drag an old man to a police station. And then they hear her.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. And then we get the TARDIS. So do you know what a TARDIS is?
I know it's an acronym.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember what it was that they said on the show. It has the words time and space in it, obviously, but I don't remember the rest of the letters.
Okay.
Am I wrong?
No, you're correct. There is
Okay.
time and space, but it's time in relative dimensions in space.
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah.
Or it does mean something else, but that's also... We'll worry about that later.
Okay, well, that's a good point, because I was going to say to you, I noticed that the Doctor, or Doctor whom is it?
The Doctor.
Mr. Doctor Man, said...
He is credited as Doctor Who in this, at the end, in the closing.
Therefore,
you
I
can
will
call
not be
him Doctor
assuaged
Who.
from calling him the Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Just like Batman is the Batman, I will call him the Doctor Who. Anyway, he says that Susan named the TARDIS, or she says, one of them says that she's the one that named it.
I'm so glad you brought this up. Because this is like a very disputed thing in the Who community.
Well, I watched it.
Okay.
She said, or he said, that she named it. And I thought, I wonder if that's a throwaway or there's a reason for that.
So she says that she made the name out of the letters.
Yes.
TARDIS.
Yep.
And so TARDIS is an acronym, and she has named it Time and Relative Dimensions in Space, or Dimension in Space. And so part of the dispute amongst like fans
Whovians?
Whovians.
How do I even know that?
There's a TV show called Whovians.
Oh,
Robbie
so that's
Manus
not
is
what
very good.
Doctor Who fans are called?
No.
Okay. Doctor Whovians?
It is Whovians, before anyone comments and gives me grief.
Dr. Watsits.
She says that, but, you know, TARDISes have obviously been around for ages, for all of time. So is that really what it's called?
Well, I assume by that it's not. But I don't have any reason to know that she doesn't also exist forever. But I'll bring that up later. There's something about her I want to ask you later in a possible category later that we're going to talk about. But anyway.
Right.
Yes.
So I have one of my favourite moments. So it's the first time that people have entered on the show.
Yeah.
The Doctor has. This is a term that's going to come up a lot. It comes up later in this, but he has companions. So there's always a Doctor and his companions in the TARDIS.
Right.
So
I don't think he used that word though.
No. It's later.
Okay.
I heard it because I'm the real fan.
I see.
And I've put here. The Doctor's not very friendly in this first incarnation. He just zaps in with the TARDIS.
That was my general feel. I wasn't sure if I was supposed to like Doctor Who or not.
Well, I think it's really interesting because at this point, so he's clearly just now these people have figured out who we are and we can't just let them leave, which sounds horrifying if you know, the current Doctor. Is he just going to kidnap these people or something?
And I'll clarify, I don't know.
Oh. So then it does take off, and there's some really great, just Ian and Barbara, the actors, William Russell, and yes, doing
Stumbling
some classic William Russell and Jacqueline Hill, just doing some falling over. It's some good acting.
I actually thought his was the worst. It looked really bad. It looked like he didn't want to fall down very hard, so he kind of falls to his knees and then flops on the floor.
Yes.
So I thought that was hilarious.
Also something that doesn't really happen that often, as in
people being
people
kidnapped?
just passing, people being kidnapped.
Or does that happen a lot? I don't know.
Well, maybe in this incarnation it does.
What were you going to say?
I knew that they left in the TARDIS unwillingly.
Okay.
I hadn't seen that, but I was like, oh, he really just zapped that guy and then took off. So
there's no other way to put it. That's what happened.
Now, when they do land,
Yes.
did you have anything else about that first? How do you think that first episode ended?
I thought it was really good because I thought it was a perfect way to end the episode because obviously it's leading on to the next episode in a super clear way, which I'm guessing is going to be a thing that happens with each episode, or arc anyway.
Yeah.
There was one thing I noticed that I don't know if you brought it up, or you're going to bring it up, I mean. When they're in the TARDIS and they're talking, Doctor Who, Mr. Doctor Who does it, done it, he actually looks physically into the camera when he says a line. And I don't know if that's on purpose or not, or if he's just a bad actor.
There's some breaking the fourth wall, and there's also some of that.
So that's purposeful.
There's actually a moment, I'm not sure if you noticed, when they're in the TARDIS the first time, there's some, I guess, production errors. You can actually see a boom mic at the top for a moment. A microphone.
I didn't notice that.
And also, William Russell and William Hurnell. So William Russell plays Ian Chesterton, the science teacher.
Yep.
And William Hurnell plays the Doctor.
Mm-hmm.
But
who?
they just
Sorry?
interrupt each other. They don't speak their lines correctly. They just kind of talk over each other. And then Ian gets zapped by the TARDIS.
So that wasn't. You don't think that was on purpose? You think that's just not great acting?
I just think that's them just... Maybe they were just just say something. I think they weren't meant to interrupt each other like that.
Because when Mr. Doctor Who Man looks into the camera, his exact line is, because obviously the teacher is not willing to believe or take on this new knowledge of
Being on the inside thing.
a post box that happens to be this telephone box happens to be this massive
And it's
thing.
still incorrect, but continue.
Policeman box.
There's literally one behind you.
Police public call box, blue.
I think there's 2 more TARDISes downstairs in my living. Anyway,
There's one on the
whatever.
poster over there. But he says to this guy, "You don't understand, so you find excuses." And I thought, is the whole point, is he's telling the audience to just go with it, don't try to find excuses, or is it just
No, I
happenstance?
think that's really good because he does. He uses an analogy there, like he compares it to something else.
TV.
Yes, so like it's in your living room and you wouldn't be able to believe that a while ago or whatever, and so it's like, well, maybe this is just a whole nother world that we're all going to learn about.
How nice.
Yeah,
And
it
he
is.
zaps him.
There is a thing earlier on when Susan's trying to teach the science teacher, Ian, about
Oh yeah.
the fact that they should be talking about 5 dimensions, so
Yeah.
length, width, height, and then obviously time and space.
Ooh.
That's another point where you go, well, maybe there's more to this whole thing than meets the eye. That's more of a Transformers reference, though. Water meets the eye? No, don't worry about it.
No, I know it. I just don't know why it's being said in a Doctor Who Done It podcast.
I've put here as my very first point for the second part,
Yes, episode 2.
caveman acting on point.
That's an interesting point because I have an almost opposite point in the next episode, but we'll get there. Yes, I agree. In this episode, caveman acting was on point.
I was just like, okay. Because I also didn't know the first time, because I hadn't seen this episode,
Yeah, this arc.
where this episode as well,
Yeah.
where the TARDIS goes for its first trip on screen. Because you also have to remember that there hasn't been any, this isn't from any other medium. The first episode of Doctor Who is the start of, all of this.
What you're saying is it's not based on a book or
There's
anything.
no book
Yeah.
or, something else. It's just this is where it kicks off. And so I didn't know where they land initially. So it just seems like very ancient times then.
Yeah.
And so the camera, I think it
makes sense for a first destination.
Yeah. And also, something that's going to come up a lot, things on the TARDIS not working properly. So he couldn't tell what year it was when he looked at the console because the thing wasn't working. That's going to happen a lot.
See, I didn't know if that was just because they had broken down initially in the junkyard and they were trying to fix it, but that's a theme.
That's a thing.
Interesting.
Or you just wait.
Okay. Okay, I don't know what it is then.
This is going to be good.
It's a fun fact.
My favourite moment early in that episode, there's at the 5-minute mark, when Ian calls the doctor Dr. Foreman,
Oh, yes.
and he says, Doctor Who? And you're like, oh, that's the name of the show.
That might be the point I was going to bring up. That's the second time he looks into the camera and says something. He looks at the audience and says, Doctor Who?
There is a lot of breaking the fourth wall. There's a lot of... I don't think it happens as much now, but I will get there, I'm
I wonder
sure.
why.
But there's a lot of, what would you call it? That monologue kind of stuff where they're talking to themselves just with the camera. And I don't think that comes up as much later on.
Right.
But that is interesting, the times that he looks at the camera. We're going to get to a great moment later when we get to, when there's 5 doctors in the one episode and the first doctor does a look to camera that I just think is hilarious.
Almost like The Office, kind of a what?
Yeah, well...
A gym look?
No, not a gym look.
Okay.
Definitely not. Maybe an old man gym look. Maybe.
I also thought too, Ian says it as a Doctor Who. It's like a throwaway line. I thought that was pretty cool.
But we don't actually I don't think even in any of these episodes calls himself the Doctor or anything.
That's why when you start saying it at the start of this podcast, that doesn't happen for me yet, so I'm not taking it on board.
Okay, don't take
it's
it
a
on
Doctor
board.
Who done it.
But also, like, Susan doesn't call him... Because she just calls him grandfather. And something about... we're just going to go off on weird tangents. But this is fine, because I love it. But Susan, like... This is the first time, obviously, because it's early in the season, like, that we see a relative of the Doctor's.
Yes.
So...
I'm going to bring that up later.
Yes. Yes. Another point of contention amongst fans.
Well, I'm going to bring that up later. Trust me.
So they get out of the TARDIS. One of the rare things that I don't think will come up as much is the fact that he does some checks before they go outside. He actually makes sure that the air outside is breathable. So that's something to a fan like me who's like, oh, okay, sometimes he is safe.
Interesting.
And then they go outside, and he wonders, the Doctor, thinking to himself, almost looking at the camera again, why his TARDIS still looks like a police box.
That is what I was going to bring up. Because from not ever watching the show, the police box is iconic, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And then this guy just says, well, it's not supposed to be this. It can change, but it won't change.
Yeah. Do you want to know the reason behind that? Production-wise?
Yes, production-wise, yes, not story-wise.
So initially the creators of the show wanted to do what's called a working chameleon circuit in the TARDIS.
Excuse me?
Which is basically whenever the TARDIS lands somewhere, I think Susan explains in the episode, it like scans its surroundings and then picks a look that fits in with the area.
Yeah.
And so in 1960s it becomes a police box because police boxes existed back then.
Yes.
But it's too expensive to just keep changing it. So
that's why, like, 50 years later, they're like, it's a police box.
And also, it's just iconic, isn't it? It's just, like, the one thing.
But that is interesting. I would have never picked that from never seeing the show, that was supposed to be a thing.
We also get a classic frightened Susan scream. That's going to happen a lot. That happens, like, 4 times in this story arc. It's just her screaming loudly.
Yeah, I start to find it a bit annoying.
I think the actress finds it a bit annoying. So that will come up.
Sure.
More and more.
Oh, that's a shame.
In 14-minute mark, the caveman who look, this is the thing that I wanted to talk. We talked before we recorded this that I might have just missed something, but the caveman seems to think just from the get-go that the Doctor can make fire from his hands.
See, I thought... That's a good point, but... So I thought... Because he later talks about, I need my matches, and I figured he had struck a match, and that had been seen. Because doesn't the caveman watch them for a while?
Yes.
And then the Doctor walks off, and then he takes a Doctor later...
Yes.
And says, you make fire with your hands.
Is it because... Maybe I missed it, but I know that this Doctor smokes a pipe.
I think that... Well, I didn't know if he smoked, but I thought that must be what he saw.
Right. So we both missed it.
Well, no,
because
I don't think it gets
he was
shown.
very happy. He was very happy to take the old man back to the other members of his tribe and be like, I've defeated this old man.
Which later gets used as a very common insult.
Yeah.
Oh, you're an old man, but for some reason...
An old fuddy-duddy.
But I don't think it gets shown. I would have remembered seeing him light something.
Yeah, I was like... I mean, maybe he saw the police box just appear out of nothing and was like, this is insane. I'm going to take this guy. But I don't think he saw that.
No,
I think he saw them just come out of it.
Later, in episode 4, when it disappears, they're all like, what?
And they throw their spears through it.
Yeah. I think it's off screen. And maybe that's the whole point, is the mystery is why did he just take this old guy? And then you find out he must have seen him making fire. And
then something that does happen that is I find really interesting. So the Doctor's been pretty like grumpy like at the start, and he doesn't really show much care for Ian or Barbara.
Yes.
But then he saves Ian, basically, by promising the cavemen fire. And I'm like, oh, okay, maybe he's not completely horrible. Because he doesn't seem to be that worried at that point. Like, if Ian died, he could just get back in his box and fly off at some point. But instead, although later he does admit, because Ian's the strongest of them, he says,
Yeah.
maybe he just was like, that's a self-preservation thing. Like, I better keep this guy alive.
What scene I thought he was just trying to keep them all alive. Does he specifically save the teacher?
Well, because there's a guy with an axe that's going to kill Ian at the... Well, I assume he's going to kill him.
I do remember. You're right.
And he's like, stop, or whatever.
I'll make fire.
He doesn't say whatever.
Hadouken.
He doesn't say any of those things.
Sure. Doctor Who.
That's kind of where we end up at the end of the second episode. I've written down some caveman names.
Yes, I can give you some.
Her.
H-U-R.
H-U-R.
Yep.
Zar.
Z-A.
Z-A. And Carl. K-A-L. I thought that was well done. Very, very authentic names.
Very authentic caveman names. We can definitely check that by asking them.
Well, apparently, it's not actually said, but I think it's like 100,000 BC or something that they're aiming for.
Well, I thought he said... Maybe I misunderstood this. I thought the doctor said something about it being year 0 when they first landed.
Yes, I heard that too.
But maybe that was just 0 was coming up on the console because he couldn't get it to work.
Mm.
But maybe it's year 0.
Maybe it's a different measure because it's like a weird time machine too.
That's true.
Yeah.
Did you watch this with subtitles?
No.
I did.
I should though.
Well, I just watch all my shows that way, but it's just so I don't miss anything. But the way you spelt those names is how they were spelt on the thing.
Oh, okay.
That's the only reason I thought that you must have watched it with subtitles.
No, I just looked it up.
Oh, there you go.
I wrote down the names and then I crossed them out and spelt them correctly.
Oh.
So I had H-U... H-A-R... No, H-U-R. And I had Z-A-R, like Zar.
No, it's Z-A.
Yeah, I know. I rewrote it.
I see.
I correct myself.
Well, I also figured there's probably going to be moments when the audio is not very clear.
Mm.
And
or
that
when
happens...
the actor, particularly William Hartnell,
yeah,
there'll be times when he just says something that doesn't make sense.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
So I thought it'd be a good idea to watch it with them.
Yes. In fact, that's probably going to be hilarious at some point. Because he... William Hartnell was, I think... he was for a long time he was the oldest actor to play the Doctor.
Definitely at this point.
Definitely at this point. So he sort of starts to become unwell as the show goes on.
Oh,
and
really?
So, which is sad.
Yes.
But it also means that he sometimes just forgets his lines and says whatever. Or there's times and there's an episode coming up, and a story arc coming up that we'll get to, where he says there's too many lines in this episode for me to say.
And he says that on the show.
He doesn't say it in the episode.
That's what I thought he was saying. You're like, he's going to say hilarious things like, I'm not saying all these lines.
No, but he loves being this character. Not initially, but he does because, kids watch it, and then he becomes like really... Iconic, yeah. Part 3?
Part 3.
I put here as my first point, Susan says to the Doctor, her grandfather,
yes,
don't blame yourself, grandfather. And I've just put, but you should.
Well, that's pretty much his fault. But see, I get where he's coming from. I mean, these two people from human civilization have discovered them, and they're basically aliens.
Mm.
So he's worried that they're going to be found out.
Yes.
So I get...
But can I just, what... If he's found out, right?
Yes.
What then? He can fly away. Why doesn't he just send them on their way and fly off? I mean, I suppose Susan likes going to that school, even though she's really smart and not smart at the same time.
Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, question for you.
Mm.
And I don't know if this is a controversial thing or not. Is the Doctor... I know from hearing things about the show, because obviously I know you and you like the show and whatever.
Whoa, okay.
He's a Time Lord.
He is a Time Lord.
Is he invincible? Because he seemed to be very scared at different points in this story arc that made me think, I don't get it. Isn't he just like...
There's a story in the far future
That explains.
that explains his hesitance to get hurt. He in a way, he can't die. I mean, Time Lords can die, but he doesn't seem to. Even at some points where you think he probably would die.
Okay.
But you can... But for him, like, it's a hassle, basically.
Okay. But also, they don't mention any of him being a Time Lord or anything in this story.
No, none of that's... Like, they don't know where they're going with this yet.
Okay.
So they're just like, he's just a mysterious alien traveller person.
Well, then it makes sense that he's scared to get hurt regardless, so that makes sense, I get that.
But also, he's
Which
quite,
means they have to retcon it later.
He's quite a lot weaker than he is later on, though.
Yeah.
Like, on this, he's a bit like...
He's an old man.
He's a bit weak. Then they're trying to free each other. They're using the rock to free each other from the...
Their hands are bound.
Their hands are bound at the start of this episode.
The cavemen have got them trapped in a cave and they're trying to escape.
Yeah, and the rock, it keeps breaking apart instead of breaking them out.
Yeah.
And they're taking in turns to cut Ian's rope because he's the strongest, and if they need to defend themselves...
It's on him.
Get the young male to help because no one else can. And then
Oh, wow. I guess 1963.
Well, there's a point that I want to make like later on.
Yeah.
We'll wait till we get to that. But when they're escaping through the forest, there's a few things that I'm just like, what? But they're trying to break his bounds, like try and get him free.
Yeah.
And the doctor's like trying, he's like, oh, I'm so tired. Susan, you take over. Like, it's like, he's really not that strong at this point. He's smart, I guess.
Well, he comes up with what they should eventually do.
Yeah.
Which is use one of the bones that's in the cave. They're covered with... It's surrounded with bones and skulls.
We're going to talk about bones later.
Okay.
At the end.
Interesting. I actually don't know what point that's going to be. I can't remember that.
Oh, my goodness. So, yes, I've written down here, I put the Doctor is a little more useless than I thought he would be.
Yep.
And he says, fear makes companions of us all, to Ian. So, because Ian's like, before you didn't really care about us, and then he's like, oh, fear makes companions of us all. And companion comes up again, but companion is what everyone that travels with the Doctor is called. You're going to hear that a lot.
Okay.
Because in this episode, the way that these things are sort of like recorded is that like, so the Doctor in this episode is the first Doctor.
Yep.
And his companions are Ian, Barbara, and Susan.
Right.
So they're the first companions of the first Doctor.
But you said that they are kind of making it up as they go when they started the show.
Yes.
Do you think they just used a throwaway term like fear makes companions of us all, and then later they've grabbed onto that?
I think that they just wrote that,
Yeah.
and me knowing that they're called companions has latched onto it.
Oh, so even they didn't do it on purpose?
No, but eventually they do
that
start
name.
using that line, or they call them assistants, and which is normally met with hostility by some companions. Like if I was like, I'm the host of the show and Alex is my assistant. Like, that's kind of...
Okay, but here's the difference.
I wouldn't say you're my companion, though.
No, that's a different thing. But you're not like this alien creature that has all this crazy technology and things, and I'm along for the ride. That would make me an assistant. I don't have a problem with the term. I'm just saying, unless something happens in the show that changes that, it makes sense to me, because that's the big deal, and then you've got the few people
I
with
think
them.
it's because there's some companions who are more intelligent and would not like to be called assistant, and then we will get to those companions.
Okay. I'll just tell you right now, so far, I don't see that from these, except maybe Susan. She seems to have a...
Yeah, in fact, I think she seemed to have... Like, she could sense the cavemen coming at the start of that, when they came out of the TARDIS. So
that's
I always
right.
thought that she seems to have, and it will probably come up later, I put slight evidence of Susan's telepathy. Because I think that comes up more.
Right.
And the Doctor has that too. But for her, it's like a different level.
Well,
I won't tell you too much.
no, I was just going to say, I didn't notice that, but I guess that makes sense if that's like what you see later on in the show, which I haven't got to yet, so.
And the Doctor starts the Doctor starts developing hope as well.
Yes.
So he's normally feeling negative, and then suddenly he's like, I suppose we might get out of here.
And he picks that up from Ian. The word
Yes.
hope.
That's what I thought that was really interesting. The fact that he's this old, grumpy traveller who's like, no one talk to me. I want to do my own thing. We're hiding from our people.
And we're a higher being than these people.
Yeah. And suddenly he's like he's being taught something from this, random science teacher.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's cool.
And I'm guessing that's a thing that happens throughout the show.
I think, I don't know how his character fully develops.
Right.
But judging from what the character is like now, like that's definitely something. Like hope is definitely something that.
Oh no, what I mean, yes,
His positive, like
attributes.
or his more positive view of humans starts to come out of that. I think.
But what I mean is, does it become a thing throughout the show and with all the different Doctors that they change and grow because of learning things from their companions?
Oh yes.
So that's like...
We're going to get to a lot of that.
Okay.
But there's also times when I think it's really telling when you start to see the Doctor with different companions or with the absence of any companions. You start to get a sense of what he's like.
Right, by himself.
By himself. So I guess also at this point we don't know how old the Doctor is. So... I mean, I know he looks like an old man, but, is he hundreds of years old yet? We might learn that later.
Ooh.
His age fluctuates a lot, so we'll have a lot of discussion about that, I'm sure.
Oh, interesting. Well, I won't say any more then.
But time travel, wibbly wobbly,
Wibbly wobbly.
Yeah.
What I was going to say is, if he's a Time Lord and travels through time, I assume he's not just like 50 or 60 years old, but I guess we get to that.
Yes, we will get to that.
Interesting.
I've put more screaming from Susan, because it happens again.
Yes.
I thought there's a point where there's a camera close-up when the cavemen come into their like enclosure.
Cave?
The cavemen come in. Like, someone comes in to assist, assist the Doctor and his companions to escape.
Yes. The old lady.
The old lady, who they just refer to as Old Woman the whole time. Like, she doesn't have a name.
Whereas some of them do.
Yeah. So I tried to find, I think, I even looked up the cast list. So we have Zar and her and Carl and Hawk and Old Mother. Just doesn't have a name.
Wow.
And so there's a bit where she helps them escape through like a hidden exit.
Yeah.
A very huge hidden exit. I was like, why didn't they just climb out of that hole?
Because the main exit is just covered
with a big boulder.
But there's just like this
massive opening.
Rubbish or something that covers it, and that's it.
Barbara even says, I can feel like the wind on my face. There must be air coming from somewhere. Yeah, from the massive hole. And I know their hands are tied.
Literally.
But they can... they could have climbed out of that, I reckon.
Even with the hands tied?
Yeah, even with their
for
hands
sure.
tied.
Maybe not the Doctor. Doctor Who done it.
So he struggles as they escape, and the old woman is in where they were being held captive.
She's waiting at the bottom of the cave while they escape out the secret exit.
And the one of the cavemen, now I can't remember his name, but one of the cavemen moves the boulder aside. That's Zar, right?
Yes, that's Zar.
There's just some close-ups on his face putting like extreme effort in to moving the boulder, and I thought that was quite good. Just lots of gritted teeth and trying to push aside a massive boulder. And then of course he goes in there and they find the old woman.
And the rest have gone.
And the rest have gone. Yeah, I've just put there's a big hole in that cell. And I put Ian. So they run off. He basically leaves. He pushes the old woman over and goes after them.
Yeah.
And then he gets attacked. Like, this is a part where I was like, well, Barbara starts to fall apart a bit here. Because at the start, when they take off and land...
That's the female teacher, right?
The female teacher.
Yeah.
When they take off and land, she's the one that's like, it must be real because it's happened and here we are. And now she's just like a mess. Like, she's like, we'll never get back and we're all doomed, basically. And it's like, really? Now it's like flipped, and the one who can't believe what was happening is now like, we can get out of here.
On board, yeah.
And the one that was like, this is amazing that this has happened is now like, there's a dead boar there or something. And, did you see the fake dead, like, warthog?
The head of the
boar or whatever it is. And so...
they're running through the
forest. There's more screaming.
And the caveman kept talking about some beast in the woods.
Yes.
Or in the forest, sorry.
And he gets attacked by that beast.
Yeah.
And so we're nearing the end of this episode, I think.
Yeah.
But the doctor sees his companions then go to assist the caveman.
Yeah, that's been hurt by the beast.
Barbara comes to her senses and is like, we have to help him. I don't care what he's done. And so
the fact that he's chasing them down to kill them or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they go to help the caveman, and the doctor is like, why are we help? They were trying to kill us.
What is compassion?
What's compassion? So now he's learned hope and compassion.
Yeah.
And the female cave woman, Zar's like wife.
Yeah, or girlfriend, something like
that.
She was with him.
Her? H-U-R?
That's her.
That's her?
Dudum Tish.
Can't understand like why they're helping. They're like, people were supposed to just kill each other. So she's learning about what friends are.
Yes.
And they try to make a stretcher to put him on out of like their coats.
Yeah, and a couple of sticks.
Good job, Ian. And then he tells the doctor to come over and help. And this, I don't know if you have this, but I found this really interesting.
Go on.
So the doctor picks up the Zar's knife, this rock. And I thought at that moment, like, and Ian turns around and is like, what are you doing? And he's like, I was just going to get him to draw a map in the dirt with the rock. Like, was the doctor going to kill that guy just so they could then get out of there?
I think that was pretty clear. Because I think I even thought I saw him, the doctor, with the knife, raising his arm to strike. I thought that was why Ian grabbed his arm.
Okay, I thought he just grabbed his arm. I thought he was just holding the knife and was going to, like, go down there. Possibly. But also, he's just an old man at this stage. A feeble old man.
A feeble old man. I thought he was going to attack him.
I thought he was going to kill him.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad that he didn't. And so they finally, they start to make a move back to the TARDIS.
Yeah.
And they just get captured again. I found that really disappointing.
Well, what happens is these people have all run off.
Yes.
The rest of the cavemen find the old woman in the cave.
That's right, because is it Cal?
Cal
is like...
he's vying for leadership of the tribe.
Yes. That's the whole plot that we've just left out. But he's basically like, okay, so Zar's not making us fire. I'll make fire. Yes. Because the leader of the tribe is apparently the one who can make fire. And so he's like, well, Zar's betrayed us all and he's taking fire with him, basically. And
killed this old woman. Or left her, whatever.
Yes. So that's the other thing. He's left the old woman there, and Carl has just killed her.
Yeah. Before the rest of them see.
Yeah. But he's like, oh, but my eyes saw Zara do it. And so I feel like I'm just saying like random names, Zara and Carl or whatever.
That was right though, I think.
And so they're like, oh, we'll go get him.
So it's almost like an ambush.
Yeah.
They make their way, the doctor and the crew make their way through the woods.
Yeah.
Or the forest to get to the TARDIS, but then when they get to an opening, all the rest of the cavemen are waiting there for them.
It's called the Forest of Fear.
Forest of Fear, I'm sorry.
Remember the episode?
Woods of
Despair.
Scariness, Despair.
That's not the name of the episode, though. The Forest of Fear.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you were disappointed by that?
Well, I was like, oh, they just got back.
Oh, so not
They have to walk all
plot-wise.
the way
You didn't
back
think
again.
it was lame or something?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
I mean, what were they going to do? Take the caveman into the TARDIS and then fly
Anyway.
somewhere and have a new companion?
And they just keep doing it. They just keep...
picking up a new person
The
every episode.
moment they get discovered, we're out of here. Grab them, bring them on a ship, and let's go. It's just
Well,
a
that's the other
city
thing.
of
Well, I guess
people.
because it's so far in the past, we'll get to that where they take off and there's just a whole bunch of cavemen who see a mysterious box disappear.
That's what I... Yeah, we'll get to that because that's the next episode. But I just wanted to mention something. You brought up excellent on-point caveman talk in episode 2. Did you not notice at the start of episode 3 they were almost speaking like complete sentences?
Yes.
This doctor is in the cave. Oh, not this doctor. Okay, he doesn't say that. They're like, this man with the fire is in the cave. We need to find out how this guy makes the fire. It was like... They almost had English accents back.
Oh.
What
but
changed?
Maybe there's a thing going on.
Really?
Well, look, we're going to get to it anyway, but the TARDIS can translate. That's probably why they're speaking English at all, to be honest, isn't it? Because if they're real cavemen, aren't they just going to be talking in weird cavemen?
Ooh. Like that?
Yeah.
But my point is, they went from like...
They barely knew how to speak.
Yeah,
Put
men
sentences
have
together.
fire to like complex conversations.
And not understanding what the word friend means,
Yeah.
but they learn a valuable lesson and then they throw spears at that lesson.
I'm just saying, something happened there. The dialogue was not as good in that one because all of a sudden the
Look,
cavemen were
hey.
having conversations like they're English professors.
Look, if you're a scriptwriter and you're trying to move the plot along, you might just be like, can they just speak English for a few minutes?
We need some proper nouns and... Yeah.
So that's when the end of the third episode is.
Ends with the ambush of the rest of the cavemen.
Yeah. And then they end up back at the cave
Did they escape from?
that they escaped from. One of my favourite things, and this is going to happen a lot, but the Doctor does a bit of a speech. Like, he does a bit of a explanation of, like, what did I put? Doctor does a trademark explanation and speech followed by throwing stones at Carl. Like, he does a bit of a, like, the tribe is stronger than one, basically.
And that's how they drive away the enemy.
Yeah.
Which is the caveman who actually killed the old woman.
So he does a little bit of like this rock has no blood on it. That's Zaz.
Yes.
But this rock from Carl, it does have blood on it.
See, he's a Doctor Who done it.
Yeah. Ugh. But like he works out like using that and he shows it to them and then they
know
have a
enough
disagreement
logic.
and then they go, us as a group can get rid of him. And the Doctor's the first one to throw a stone, which I found a little bit...
Why are you
Hilarious.
surprised? He zapped the first guy on the ship.
Yeah,
he was
I
going
know,
to
but-
stab this other
But
guy.
he's not normally so violent. He's throwing rocks now. He's gone from like, staggering through the forest and needing to lean on Susan because he's like so old and weak. And now he's throwing rocks at another person. So, I thought that was really like that's another message they're learning. And it comes up again later when they're trying to start a fire. And they're like, we all know how to, the fire maker is the least of us because everyone can make fire.
Yes.
So they're really trying to tell this Tsar guy that, as a group, you're stronger than just, like, having one person who's, like, a hunter-gatherer leader person.
Yeah.
So I think that's pretty cool.
But you know what's interesting? I don't think he learns the lesson.
No, it doesn't.
He just goes, yeah, but now I have the fire and I lead the group, and then the group's like, the cavemen are like, yes! So it ends with him completely ignoring the lesson.
Which, I'm not sure if we're moving too fast, but I want to get to this point.
Yes.
So tell me if you've got something earlier.
No.
But the point of them escaping. So Susan puts a skull on a torch. So they make the fire. Tsar's like...
surrounded by bones and skulls in this cave.
Yeah, Tsar's like, thank everything, I've got fire. This is awesome. He goes to start a larger fire. He's like, I go get meat now. We cook. That's what's happening.
They're back to their caveman talk.
Back to their caveman talk. And, the tribe as a unit is stronger than one has just, like, that whole message is flying out the window. And he's like, hooray, fire. And Susan... Like they get a stick, and it's on fire, and Susan puts a skull on the stick and is like, check this out. And there's like fire coming out of the eyes of the skull or whatever. And the doctor is like, brilliant. This is our escape plan.
I'll tell you what I thought was going to happen.
Okay.
I thought they were going to all do that, but carry it out in front of them to
That's
be like
what I thought was going to happen.
Scary thing.
I thought they would like threaten to burn them or something. Which also sounds a bit more hostile than I thought the doctor would be.
But instead, what's their brilliant plan?
They put 4 sticks in the ground with skulls on them, and they're on fire. So when the people come in, they see 4 skulls on fire. And while they're like looking at the 4 skulls, the doctor and his like 3 companions, and also it's not a massive cave.
No.
But they just kind of sneak behind them and run away. And then one of the skulls falls over, and the cavemen are like, oh, they're just skulls.
So did they think there was something weird, evil happening there? Or did they think the 4 people had died from the fire?
Well, I guess because they... See, this is what I thought like the reasoning was.
Yeah.
They're cavemen. They're like really superstitious then because they haven't developed whatever. Like they just think that the 4 of them could have caught on fire and burned down to a skull?
On a stick?
On a stick? Or like it's some sort of sign from like the spirits or something. Oh, the orb, that's right. That's something that comes up.
That's what they call the sun.
The life beyond or whatever. The sun, yeah. Is it a sign from this? It's because the sun is obviously hot. And they're like, that fire must be from that thing.
Yeah.
So, again, they escape through the forest. Yeah, I've just put here, great idea, Susan, burn the skulls. And they get into the TARDIS, and this is a thing that is going to come up a lot.
Mm-hmm.
The doctor's like, I'm not exactly sure how to fly this thing.
They finally get back, and he doesn't know.
He's like, oh, we can't go back. But there's also part of him that seems to be like, oh, these 2 people still know who we are. Maybe we shouldn't go back.
See, I was going to ask you, can he not actually fly it, or is it being deceptive?
I just don't think we know at this point.
Right.
I think that he doesn't want to admit that he can't fly it. Like, really? But he also seems to be the kind of person that doesn't want to go back to things, really. So he might not want to go back there. Because then he's going to have to talk with Susan about not going back and
how do we kill these 2 teachers?
How do we kill these 2 teachers? Well, he's a time traveler. Just dump the bodies in like the prehistoric era or something.
Here, you wanted some meat. There you go. Have 2.
I didn't say they were cannibals.
I thought that's why they were keeping them there. Oh no, they were going to sacrifice them to the orb.
Great.
That's what it was. I forgot.
I must have missed that bit. They can sacrifice them to the orb.
Well, they said something about a golden rock in the sky, which obviously is like
the
full
sun.
moon.
Oh, is it the full moon?
Well, they were saying at full moon. I'm just going to say it. We will sacrifice these people to the orb.
Okay.
I
must have missed that.
Maybe Superman is going to tell us that we're wrong, but that's what I thought was going on. Otherwise, they're just meat.
Yes.
Or both.
So they take off, and that will lead to the next story arc.
That's not what happens. That's not how it ends.
Okay.
They land somewhere, and then they say, let's get ready to go. Let's clean ourselves up before we leave.
The radiation thing, I wrote that down. Yeah.
And then the doctor says to Susan, can you check the radiation reader?
Yes.
And she says, I don't know if he calls it that, but he says, can you check the levels? And she says they're fine.
Yes.
And then the camera zooms in on it.
And it is not fine.
No, the meter suddenly ticks right up to like a light going off in the danger zone of radiation.
Of radiation. There's no scale. There's not like this much radiation in the air. It's just, it's dangerous.
You've got radiation. That's how it ended.
That's how it ended. Because the next planet that they're on has a lot of radiation. I winked.
I don't know what that means. I know what radiation is.
Good. Because that's going to come up a lot. So...
That was the first story arc of Doctor Who.
Yes.
An Unearthly Child.
Would you like some fun facts about this story arc?
Why don't you give me the facts, and I'll tell you if they're fun or not.
Okay. So, the actress who plays Susan, Carol Ann Ford...
Yes.
She comes up a lot too, because obviously she's the Doctor's granddaughter.
Mm-hmm.
The clothes that she's wearing belong to her.
That is a fact.
Damn it. Okay. So originally they wanted her to wear something a bit more spacey, and they were like, actually this is a bit weird. And so they were just like, just wear what we have. And I think she then...
That's a better approach.
Wore something that was a bit, apparently, like made her seem too sexy. Okay. So they made her wear jeans. So yeah, apparently...
There you go.
Are you ready for another fun fact?
Another fact, yes.
So they brought in a bunch of plants to the set because it's a jungle, and they accidentally brought a lizard with them. And Carol Ann Ford took the lizard home as a pet.
Wow.
Is that a fun fact?
That's more fun than the clothes one. Does she still have that pet? I'm guessing it's died 45 years ago. It's probably not 50 years old.
At some point it would have died, yes.
That's a good fact.
I've got two more. You're going to love the last one, I think.
Okay.
Actually, three more. You're going to love the middle one. So, due to the original airing... So, I've actually taken this. This is directly from the Doctor Who wiki.
Mm-hmm.
The original airing of the show was overshadowed by news of John F. Kennedy's assassination the previous day. The program review board decided to repeat An Unearthly Child before the next episode. So the first episode of this arc, they repeated it, which apparently was almost unheard of in 1963, of repeating anything.
So do you think they believed that much in the show? That they were like, we have to give this a real chance?
Yeah. Or at least just like, that's not really fair. You know.
True. That is interesting.
It gained, had a significant number of viewers on BBC One. Oh, sorry, BBC One. Oh no, it was BBC One. 6 million.
Wow, I'm assuming that was pretty big for the time.
Yes.
That would have been.
This is the one you'll like. So what would you think of that fun fact?
Yeah.
I guess an assassination of a president isn't fun.
I do think that's interesting timing.
It's an interesting fact.
Yes.
One of the actresses hired to play a cave woman misunderstood her part. She thought she was going to be modelling first for Dr. No, James Bond movie, rather than wearing rags. When she learned she was to have some of her teeth blacked up, she stormed off the set.
So she wasn't in it at all?
No.
That's a fun fact.
She thought she was going to be in a James Bond film, and they were like, no, you're going to be in this obscure sci-fi show.
You know what's hilarious? Little would she know she could have been in like the earliest episodes of one of the biggest shows ever.
Yeah, but also, she also gets to be an actress who stormed off the set of one of the biggest shows.
Do they mention her name?
No.
There you go. Can't be a credit.
And the actors playing the cave people complained that their costumes were flea-ridden. There's my last fact.
That's method acting, isn't it?
Well, yes. Did they look like were they itchy?
I didn't notice if they were. That's a fun fact, though. I like that one.
So yes, I'm thinking we need to, like, I'm going to do this anyway. You don't have to, but like, give the episode a rating.
The arc?
Yes, the arc.
So not each episode, but as the arc.
As the story arc,
Okay.
yes. So I'm going to say...
Out of 10 or...
I'm going to say out of 13
What?
doctors, how many doctors would be... And before people are like, there's more than 13 doctors. There are more than 13 doctors, but there's 13 like main doctors.
Okay. I don't know what that means. I'll accept.
We can talk about if we think it's 14 or 15 later, but I'm going to say out of 13. I'm putting my foot down on this.
Well,
Out of 13 doctors,
yes.
I'm going to give it... It's hard to give it a really low score.
Are you talking about like how entertaining it was, or what are you rating?
It's just a feeling I have.
Okay, on this vague scale of 13 doctors, you're going to rate... What are you going to rate it?
Well, I think it's got it's obviously quite a significant set of episodes because it's the first 4 episodes, this first arc. It's the first like time that this show ever airs.
Yep.
So it's going to score quite highly. So I think I'm going to give it 10 doctors out of 13.
Interesting. I'm happy to rate it. Based on my knowledge, should I rate it out of 1 doctor? Because that's all I know. No.
I mean, I guess so.
I'll do it out of 13. I'm going to rate it purely on how entertaining it was for me
Yeah.
as a viewer in 2021.
Yes.
It was much better than I was expecting, and I don't mean that as an insult. I mean that based on everything that people have told me about how much better the newer seasons are in terms of effects and all that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was really interesting, and I'm going to give it a 9 doctors out of 13.
A 9 doctors out of 13.
Yes.
Okay, so you gave it to Christopher Eccleston, and I gave it to David Tennant.
I'm going to assume those are actors.
They are actors.
Okay.
Good.
I don't know what any of this means.
So, I think before we started, you were going to say you had something, like once we were done, some questions about where things could... You want to make some predictions about where things could go.
I was just going to make one.
Yeah.
And
So I was just checking something on your microphone. Don't worry about it.
Okay. I have a prediction about the relationship between Susan and the Doctor Who man.
Her grandfather, yes.
Well, that is what I'm going to say, that she finds out that he's not. And that there's no relationship there. Or that he's been pretending. That's my prediction. And I'm genuinely saying that based on not knowing anything, because I've really never watched any of the shows or know anything about it.
No one can see me because this is a podcast, but I'm just shrugging.
So because you can't say anything?
Well, I don't really want to say anything.
Well, that tells me that I'm onto something, but maybe I'm not 100%.
Right.
But I don't think he's actually her grandfather. I'm gonna say that she is a genuine human girl, and he is this crazy alien. But she thinks that he's her grandfather, and that's not true.
All right. Well, I'll tell you that we very rarely see any relation of the Doctors.
Which means I'm onto something.
Well, it means
But we'll see.
We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
So the next series, the next story arc,
Yep.
which is the next 7 episodes, so we might split that one in half,
Yeah.
is called The Daleks.
I wonder what it'll be
Oh my
about.
gosh, I have seen this one,
Mm-hmm.
so I love it. It's so good, and I'm very excited to hear what you have to say about it.
I'm looking forward to it because I know it's an important part of the show, so I don't know what to expect. But I know it's going to be important.
You ready? I'm going to wrap this show up.
Go ahead.
If you enjoyed this episode, you can subscribe, because this will be in lots of places, probably mainly on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, that kind of stuff.
Yes.
And you don't know this yet, but we will have social media, so people should follow us to find out about our episodes.
I am definitely in for that.
He's making notes, people.
I'm trying to ask you a question that's not going to be recorded.
Oh yes, we'll be on that too. We'll be on YouTube.
Okay, excellent. I just thought
People
I would
might already just be listening to this now on YouTube, and I'm saying to them while they're listening to it on YouTube, hey, this is on YouTube.
Only reason I bring it up is because when I listen to podcasts, that's where I go.
That's our recommendation as well.
Excuse me?
Are you recommending YouTube as a platform to listen to podcasts?
I reckon this YouTube thing's going to pan out. Yes, that's my prediction.
Well, I wish I had a quirky sign off. Or I can do a classic Doctor quote, Allons-y, everyone.
And goodbye from me.
What are you doing?
I'm reversing the polarity of my ultrasonic screwdriver's power source.
Reverse the polarity.
Reverse the polarity.
I just reversed the polarity.
Reverse the polarity.
He's reversed the polarity. Reverse the polarity of the neutron. Blur.
Reverse polarity.
Reverse the polarity. Reverse the polarity.
Reverse the polarity.